One of the things that has me so frustrated with this news cycle is that we're basically seeing a mirror image of Russiagate. That now, it's kind of a mirror image. I mean, they're accusing Trump of some scandal, but Trump trying to investigate the origins of the Mueller probe is now being accused of what the Democrats actually did, and it's a fact. And you've got people in the media calling it all a conspiracy theory, and I find it really, really funny. They're claiming that Rudy Giuliani is shopping around some packet of conspiracy theories or something. And it's hilarious because that's literally what they did. CNN reported on this dossier, which had all this information, which turned out to be mostly false. The frustrating thing about it, it's hard to figure out what's going on at this point. Now, CNN blames Fox News. They actually state that, you have Oliver Darcy, a media reporter, saying that Fox News CEO should know that poison is his contribution to society. And they talk about the reality distortion field, about Trump's media allies. And in fact, CNN is putting out lies and conspiracies and trash, and they've done so for a long time. So instead of trying to sit here and just figure out which mirror version of reality is the correct one, I'll simply point out there probably isn't one. Media often is about trust. Do you think someone is telling you the truth? And I can tell you definitively, CNN is not telling you the truth. And I'm going to show you a ton of examples about how they lie and manipulate. Now, there are good reporters that exist. Local journalism tends to be pretty good. But CNN is tabloid trash. Toxic, poisonous garbage. I'd like to say this to CNN's media reporters when they point to Fox News. You are quite literally a black pot living in a glass house. So you should watch your words, because now I'm going to go through a ton of stories about how CNN pushes complete trash. Before we get started, head over to timcast.com/donate if you'd like to support my work, because I actually compete with these outlets. So here's the thing. YouTube props up these big corporate channels. They're more likely to recommend them. And that means if I'm going to, do a takedown and present, at least I'll say this, okay? While CNN is far from a conspiratorial nonsense fake news website, they do put out a lot of, bad information. It's relatively bad. So I want to make sure, I say there are good people at CNN. They're people who do their job. And I don't want to act like they're just making everything up all the time. But the reality is CNN and Fox News are basically the exact same thing. So to act like they're not, it's a lie. And that's what I want to point out, the complete and utter hypocrisy. I have no problem if you're biased. But I got to admit this too. In this segment from CNN, they actually talk about how Tucker Carlson criticized Donald Trump, saying that his call with Ukraine was inappropriate. Doesn't rise to the level of impeachment, though. So you actually have some criticism from Fox News towards Trump and the right. You'll actually have Tucker Carlson bring on Antifa, and people disagree with him. But CNN, what can I say for CNN? No, they bring in an echo chamber and then point the finger at everyone else while refusing to self-reflect on how awful they have been. Now, that was all part of the promo. See, that's why I'm saying you should help me compete with them by sharing this video if you like it. First, I'd like to present to you a couple bits of context. CNN calling Fox News poison, essentially, and accusing, and also Brian Stelter accusing the right of pushing conspiracy theories, which I find quite hilarious. Let's read this story first. From the Washington Examiner, they say, CNN senior media reporter Oliver Darcy took Fox Corporation CEO Lachlan Murdoch to task, arguing he allows poison to spread on Fox News. So do you guys over at CNN. During Sunday's Reliable Sources, host Brian Stelter called it a sad state of affairs that White House spokespeople giving interviews means there's going to be more misinformation. Or how about your show every Sunday? Darcy replied by arguing that talking points used by Trump administration officials fall apart in the real world, but not on Fox News. And I could easily just state, here's the big problem when it comes to everything in politics. I made a video about this. I tried talking to a journalist, and I said, how are we supposed to know what's true and correct when you have both sides saying the exact same thing about each other? Now, I happen to fall on the side of CNN being complete trash and Fox News being kind of bad, but kind of okay, whatever. At least Tucker Carlson was willing to criticize Trump. At least he's willing to have on counterpoints. Even though, Fox News, their opinion section, is very, very opinionated, very, very pro-Trump. So how am I supposed to figure out who's correct, right? I use a third-party fact-checking agency. I go to websites like All Sides to try and see where the bias comes from. Admittedly, it's very, very difficult. CNN is one of the most egregious bad actors in media, one of the worst there is. And I'm going to show you. And so this is the challenge. They're going on TV saying, no, it's Fox News spewing all the lies. Oh, come on. Quote, he says, a lot of what we saw last week in these talking points really fall apart when they enter the real world, whereas they are still allowed to thrive on Fox. Oh, I'm gonna love this rebuttal. You'll see it. Darcy then took aim at Murdoch, saying, you just played that clip where people were talking about coups, civil wars. It's really disturbing stuff. I actually kind of wonder, Lachlan Murdoch, the head of Fox News, how does he look at himself in the mirror every morning knowing that this poison is his contribution to society? I honestly can't understand how he does it. That's pretty strong, Oliver, Stelter responded. Not a very great pushback from Brian Stelter for his bombastic statement. But I want to stress, if someone wants to talk about a coup and a civil war, that's an opinion. Are you really upset that someone has a negative opinion? What about everything you guys do? What about the poison being sown by them? Brian Stelter tweeting this out. CNN banner about this segment, quote, Republicans push conspiracy theories to defend Trump. In response to a story that says, on Meet the Press, Senator Ron Johnson declared that he does not trust the CIA or FBI while launching into a series of conspiratorial attacks on Democrats and intelligence officials regarding the Ukraine scandal. It wasn't a series of conspiratorial attacks. It was literally referencing a Politico story. And this is not the first time we've seen this. MSNBC tried pulling the same thing when they claimed a story in Politico stating Ukraine was meddling in the American election in 2016, and it's ruled as such. They're calling that a conspiracy. The story's in Politico. It is in Politico. This is mainstream public information. CNN actively trying to claim it's a conspiracy. CNN banner, Republicans pushing conspiracy theories. Well, here's Glenn Greenwald, an anti-Trump figure on the left, who said, anyone who calls Ukrainian meddling in the 2016 election or Ukrainian collusion with Dems a, quote, conspiracy theory is lying. That includes Chuck Todd. You can read about it right here, Politico. A Ukrainian court ruled it was meddling. New York Times. So I ask you, CNN, why do you lie? Why is CNN trying to lie and obfuscate what's actually going on here? Brian Stelter and Oliver Darcy want to act like Fox News is this strange conspiracy land. And Brian Stelter is referencing the Daily Beast, calling this official reporting from the New York Times and Politico conspiratorial attacks. Who's acting in bad faith? We right now have leftists pointing out the Democrats are corrupt. Why? They don't like the Democrats. One of the funniest jokes I've seen on Twitter was a progressive leftist was saying, a right-winger calls me, far left, don't care. They person smears me as being, leftist socialist, whatever, don't care. And then it's like a random person on Twitter says, you're a filthy liberal. And then he posts outrage. I highlight this because the point of the joke is when you call these people conservative, right, whatever, they don't care because they know what they believe. When you call them a liberal, they freak out because the liberals, this phrase, it's unfortunate because liberal actually means something. But what this group of liberal Democrat type people really are crony corporatist, and they're corrupt. And we all know it. We all know it, okay? You want to rag on Trump? I don't care. Fine, go ahead. But can we at least be real about the reporting about the DNC in Ukraine? I really, really hate the subject. That's why I'm focusing this mostly on the media. But let's move on here. I've got a lot to talk about. Secular Talk, Kyle Kulinski, a progressive, tweeted, don't get why people are giving Chuck Todd credit here. Ron Johnson cites a specific Politico article from 2017 that lays out how Hillary's campaign did the same thing Trump is doing now, namely getting dirt on political opponents. It's how we learned of Manafort's corruption. Now, obviously, Kyle is not a fan of Trump, and he's looking at it from this anti-Trump perspective. Look, let's be real about the mirror image media. Some people are going to say that what Trump did was trying to dig up dirt on Biden, while others are going to say he was trying to figure out what happened with 2016. It really is an opinion. In my opinion, I don't think Trump wanted to dig up dirt on Biden because Biden can't win. I mean, he's doing better than everybody, but I really think it had more to do with going after those who staged this Russia investigation, this fringe conspiracy theory. That's just my opinion. I can't tell you that's right or wrong. You have to read the transcript for yourself. Kyle clearly takes an opposing opinion based on what I'm saying, and I can respect that, but at least we both can agree and understand this is not a conspiracy. It's a fact. So what is CNN doing? Well, let's go after CNN. Here's something interesting. CNN's Brian Stelter says Fox's Tucker Carlson is savvy to criticize Trump on Ukraine, a crack in the firewall. This is a really perfect example of the mirror universe we live in. Because I'll tell you this, Glenn Greenwald and Kyle Kalinske pointing out the Dems are corrupt. Is that a crack in the wall? Two progressive anti-Trump individuals pointing out that Hillary Clinton and Joe Biden and the rest of them are probably corrupt. Is that a crack in the wall? No, I think it's fair to point out that they are good actors that might be wrong sometimes, and there are bad actors like CNN. Tucker Carlson has his opinions, but I have to give him respect. He brings Antifa onto his show. He brings on these left-wing individuals onto his show. He brought Lauren Duca onto his show, and it's contentious and they fight, but he does. What about CNN? What about MSNBC? In fact, Glenn Greenwald once said that he was essentially blacklisted from MSNBC because he refused to toe the fake conspiracy Russiagate line. Check this out. Here's a pundit fact. PolitiFact's statements made on CNN. Check this out. This is fantastic. CNN's scorecard. Well, of course, it's not literally every statement ever made on CNN, but they highlight some of the rulings they presented. Here's the thing. PolitiFact's been called biased to the left, but even they point out that it's only around 42%, wait. Okay, I'm sorry, it's not 42. It's around 52% of the statements they put forward. I was looking at the actual, only 42 of the statements represented are factually true. They just barely are considered, more accurate. We can see half-truths, and look, mostly false, and pants-on-fire statements made on CNN. That doesn't mean those are made by CNN staffers. The reason I bring this part up is that if CNN wants to claim Fox News is poisonous because of the things they talk about, well, what about the things you talk about? See, Fox News brings on a pundit who talks about Civil War, coup, or whatever, fine. But so do you. You bring on people who say insane things as well. A guy who compared Trump to to Stalin and Mao. Malin, whatever. Check this out. I love this. Here's a tweet from Glenn Greenwald. Because let's talk about, being fair. I understand MSNBC is not CNN. But I love the narrative. I love that these CNN reporters are absolutely obsessed with Fox. It shows me that they don't actually care about the truth. They care about pushing a narrative that attracts viewership. Fox bad, Orange Man bad. Okay, are you going to run a segment about MSNBC, my friends? Because here's this story. Here's another tweet from Glenn Greenwald. He says, I'm not even joking. I have so much work to do and I can't stop watching this. MSNBC often removes its most embarrassing debacles from the internet. Someone please do that here so I can get to work. This is a video posted by Glenn Greenwald in which Rachel Maddow suggests Russia might try to turn off the electricity so that people in Fargo will freeze. What she really says is like, what if they shut the grid off with their cyber attacks? It's really cold in Fargo. They've crossed the line. You want to talk about conspiracy theories? No, Fox News talking about actual legitimate stories from the New York Times and from Politico is not a conspiracy, but this is. This absolutely is. These stories are being covered today. It's not just right-wing media, but it mostly is, and I have to wonder why. Where is CNN? CNN is falling into the same MSNBC hole. You know what the problem is? A reality is starting to emerge. Truth is starting to emerge. We know the Democrats colluded with Ukraine to boost Hillary by harming Trump. Here's a bombshell report from the Daily Wire. Is conservative media always right? No. In fact, they rarely do journalism. This is a fact. Conservatives mostly do commentary and rarely do original reporting on their own. But you can't deny it because the original reporting is the New York Times and Politico. We know it for a fact. So here's what happens. CNN can't all of a sudden do a 180 and start defending Trump and calling out the Democrats. They defended them for too long. They've had these people on their shows. They've propped up this rhetoric, so they must defend it. And then when the story comes out showing that actually this happened, they have no choice but to continue down that path, calling it conspiracy theory. And this isn't the only thing CNN has done wrong, okay? I was reluctant to actually make a video slamming CNN to the capacity I'm going to, but I guess we're going to go for it, right? Here's a story. 3 CNN journalists resign over retracted Trump-Russia story. How many times have we seen fake news about Trump and Russia? Now, this is from June 2017. Okay, it was a long time ago, and they resigned. All right, they did the right thing. They published fake news. They retracted it. They fired, the guys got fired. All right. I can give CNN some credit there, right? They did the right thing by getting rid of these people, and it was a long time ago. It's not like they're still doing it today. Oh, I'm sorry, this story is from just about 3 weeks ago. CNN tries to blame Trump for the Obama administration leaks. Yes, because CNN published what everyone said was fake news and stood by it. Even the New York Times was calling them fake news. I'll tell you what, I'm no big fan of a lot of what the Times has become. But if we're at a point now where the reporting by CNN is being fact-checked by WAPO and the New York Times, and Fox News is more likely to get the story right regardless of what their opinion people say. I mean, hey, they got Shep Smith, right? CNN, you're in the gutter. I mean, your ratings are worse than all the other news outlets. But this story basically points out they tried claiming that Trump leaks were statements he made or whatever, information he was giving out was going to jeopardize a CIA agent. In reality, they were going to pull this agent out a long time ago, and it was Obama. It was from the Obama era. And so I think it becomes clear that CNN pushes fake news and conspiracy, and we all know it. But let's talk about their collusion. Let's talk about how they're actually dirty individuals who straight up had to get rid of Donna Brazile because of her collusion with the DNC. Now, hey, straight criticism to Fox News for hiring her in the first place, because she leaves CNN, she goes to work at Fox. But I will say, in a sense, this actually proves Fox News is better than you, CNN. You know why? Because Fox News is willing to take on somebody who is helping the DNC and let her opinion be heard. So you want to talk about Fox News being poison? I think the real problem is you are that pot looking at that chrome kettle. And a lot of people don't know this, right? The pot calling the kettle black is because the pot is actually black and the kettle is chrome and it's seeing its own reflection. That's the thing. So you know what? CNN, you're a black pot in a glass house. You should learn not to throw stones. CNN hires BuzzFeed's K-File investigative team. This is from 2016. And what I love about this is that they basically say in Politico that Kaczynski and his K-File team, which has been compared to a political opposition research team, have broken story after story this election by digging up comments candidates have made in radio interviews, television appearances, and old articles. That's right. One of the progenitors of cancel culture, hired from BuzzFeed to CNN and being described by Politico as opposition research. Let's talk about who's poison. It's you, CNN. You are poison. You are toxic. You are misrepresenting what's actually going on, and it is damaging to civil discourse. But don't forget, remember when, I'm sorry, this is not the story I was looking for. I was going to bring up when CNN threatened to dox that person over those memes they posted. But in fact, I clicked this article. CNN's Trump derangement syndrome. It's everything but news. And this is basically just a big list of all of the insane things CNN has done. It's not hard to bring up. Absolutely not. And you know what? I'm going to avoid going through all of this. They say CNN reporter, Gloria Borger, Julian Zelizer, anti-Trump reporters. All of these things are a big list of CNN doing things that are egregious violations of journalistic ethics and norms. So look, don't forget, they even have Jim Acosta, the guy who tries to sell a book, who stands up and obstructs actual journalism so he can't sell a book. Now, what I wanted to show you was this. What CNN's threat to dox a Redditor tells us about the state of journalism. Yeah, it's that CNN is not journalism. They've become a shell of their former selves. Now, we can talk about the revolution that was CNN back in the 80s when they brought about, they were one of the first to do the 24-hour news cycle. And it was interesting, people at the time would get their news at 5 o'clock, at 11 o'clock or whatever. CNN pops up, does something revolutionary, 24 hours, straight news. And competitors emerged. Now what are they? They're rage bait opinion garbage. Look, I'm not going to act like I'm better well, actually, hold on, I'll stop. No, I will say I'm better than CNN because I actively try to entertain various perspectives. I'm not going to say that all of us here in the weeds arguing about politics are better than each other because everybody has a perspective, and I have my critics and naysayers and my supporters, and so does CNN. But I'll say, in my opinion, CNN's not supposed to be in that. CNN isn't supposed to be in the weeds. They're not supposed to be putting out fake news and firing staffers or having staffers resign over fake news or having controversy after controversy. They're not supposed to be doxing Redditors, and they're not supposed to be going on the air and calling another network poison because they don't like what's being said in the opinion sections. So that's where we end up. We end up with a news network putting out complete and utter trash. Now, I'll make this point as well about them hiring K-File. We all hate cancel culture. It is widely, K-File's been credited with starting this trend. It probably wasn't him, but somebody got the idea, and he was one of the first to start digging up old tweets and using them to destroy people. Now something that everybody hates. Guess what? It started with BuzzFeed and moved to CNN. CNN actually hired a group that's considered opposition research. And I'll show you this news from today. Allsides.com, which is a multi-partisan. It's got centrists, conservatives, liberals working together to try and figure out what the bias in the media is. Much respect to this organization. They've moved BuzzFeed from lean left to left because they say they often misrepresent facts in order to support leftist points of view. I've known that for a while, but I think what we see here now is that former BuzzFeed staffers, you can expect them to have that perspective. And there it is. You know, CNN now putting out stuff like this. Check the story out. The true appeal of the new Joker movie lies in its insidious validation of the white male resentment that helped bring President Trump to power, writes Jeff Yang. I understand it's an opinion piece, and CNN publishes opinions all across the board. But let's just talk about the narrative that CNN is adopting and what they're pushing and their opinions. Like, I get it, man. Here you go. Actually, I can't show you this next tweet because it'll get me in trouble on YouTube. But somebody responded to this saying, who's more responsible for what's happening? There was a lot of concern over a potential tragedy at Joker screenings. Nothing happened. And this next tweet, they argue that CNN plasters the face of every horrifying individual all the time, even though we know it inspires. And then they write stories like this. It's like they want it to happen. CNN is a trash poison blog that is toxic for our civilization, is toxic for society. And they know it. And I gotta end with this. Because Don Lemon is potentially the worst of the worst. Did you know that at one point, Don Lemon genuinely wondered if Flight 370 could have been swallowed by a black hole? There's a lot to go on here about Don Lemon's multiple gaffes. They said the time he compared a real prisoner of war to a fictional character from the series Homeland. That time he got into a really tense shouting match with Talib Kweli about CNN's Ferguson coverage. The time he couldn't tell the difference between automatic weapons and semi-automatic weapons. The time he told black people they shouldn't wear baggy pants, use the N-word, litter, drop out of school, or have kids out of wedlock. Actually, that one right there, I mean, that sounds very similar to what something like Candace Owens might say. So I think, you know, if he's wrong, he's entitled to his opinion, okay? And of course, the time he told the victim that she could have just shut down by oh man, I can't even read that. Okay, we'll just stop there and just say, you know what, at the end of the day, Don Lemon once asked if a black hole could have swallowed an airplane. So you want to talk about poison, misinformation, conspiracy theories. You want to talk about conspiracy theories? Could a black hole have swallowed an airplane? I get it. There's no conspiracy. It's just insane to actually speculate to that degree. So I guess this has been a long time coming. In the past several weeks, I have seen CNN put out all of these stories and say conspiracy theory 800 times. And it's just so annoying to see them point the finger at everybody else when it's literally them doing it. So I will leave you with Glenn Greenwald. Anyone who calls Ukrainian meddling in 2016 a conspiracy theory is lying. CNN, you are lying. And you need to self-reflect to recognize just how awful your network is. And I'll tell you this, the funniest thing, the most ironic thing, is CNN calling Fox poison is quite literally poison. It's not what we need, okay? So I'll recognize the paradox in myself in doing something similar. But I will also stress, I'm a person. I'm a person with personal opinions. And that's what I do. I read the news and I talk about my feelings for the most part. You want to go look at news? Go look at what we're doing at Subverse. Editorially independent from my opinions and not talking about this insanity or pushing nonsense. No, we just get it right. CNN, on the other hand, as an organization, is pushing nonsense. But you're an organization. There needs to be somebody saying, as a news organization, this is what you can or cannot do. Now, it's fine if you want to be an entertainment, opinion, or commentary thing, similar to what, you know, many of us do in the commentary space. Sure, I get it. You guys are commenting. But you're supposed to be reporters. I thought you were both media reporters. Instead, you're just being nasty. You're being mean and nasty. So how about this? Stop saying you're the most trusted name in news if what you're really doing is opining. I think that's fair, right? Now, I understand you can do journalism and commentary all the same, right? Everybody's doing it. But there's got to be a line. You know, if you're going to accuse someone else of pushing conspiracy theories and being poisonous, I think the first thing you need to do is recognize yourselves. Recognize that that's what you are. Congratulations, CNN. You become what you accuse others of being. But that's just not surprising, I guess. This whole Ukraine scandal, it's Russiagate 2, Ukrainian Boogaloo, and we are seeing all of a sudden these journalists who entertained a fake dossier are shocked that someone else might have a similar document alleging corruption on the Democrats. The only problem? Politico and the New York Times reported it. So how about now we get our investigation? Stick around. I'll see you in the next segment coming up at 6 p.m. at youtube.com/TimCastNews. This stuff frustrates me. I'll see you there.